I want you to think back to your elementary school days. Picture in your head a young blonde-haired boy wearing tan shorts, suspenders, and a bit of a dorky smile, walking down the hallway between classrooms. A group of bigger boys leaning against the lockers are watching him walk by. They follow the smaller boy to the stairwell leading down to the lower level of the school, out of sight of the teachers in the hallway. The group surrounds him at the top of the stairs. "Why do you talk like that?" they sneer at him. "Why do you wear those stupid clothes, kid?" Then pushing and shoving starts from the bigger kids. Hushed name-calling up close makes the boy cringe. Then the young boy gets pushed down the stairs. He tumbles head over heels and hits the lower landing hard. The bullies run down the stairs after him and start kicking and punching him while he's on the ground crying. After what seems like an eternity, they stop and look at the groaning boy on the ground and run away. The boy doesn't move for a long time, not until a teacher comes. That's how it started with this legend. So, if you are like me, and you really get into hearing something new about someone you were sure you knew everything about, then this video could be for you. You're never gonna believe how that little boy ascended to greatness and is still going strong as our featured legend today. Welcome to Legend Origins, everyone. In this episode, historian, who wanted to be someone important this time. I asked him, "How important do you want to be?" And he said, "CEO of the future." All right then, AIs, right? Where did that come from? Anyways, in our video today, historian and myself will delve deep into story form, into the life of this incredibly impactful historical legend. Many of the legends we talk about on this channel, you'll never have heard of before, or some will be outrageously famous, but you never knew their origin story, which sometimes turns out very unexpected. Me? I knew all about this person, or I thought I did. I learned a lot on researching their background story. You'd have to be living under a rock not to know this legend. Comment below after watching if you knew what this legend did and how they got there. I'd love to hear from you. But either way, if you did or didn't know, you'll definitely learn a few cool fun facts about this person and the massive impact they had and are still having on the planet and its population around the world. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? Discovering new technologies, exploring new creations and inventions, or even committing outright horrible acts that we can never forget. Becoming a legend. And leaving a mark that will remain forever on our civilization, whether good or bad. Now, I'm going to introduce you to our first legend of the day. But first, before I do so, if you could do something out of this world for me and comment, like, share, and subscribe to this channel, it's free for you to do so and costs nothing. And it helps this channel get more widely spread to inform others of this really cool information that we share. All right, let's look at an origin story, shall we? To get to know this legend, I'm going to take you all the way back to June 1971, to a bustling city named Pretoria in South Africa. It was a hot summer morning in Pretoria, warm and sunny already, even in the early hours. In a hospital room with the city sounds in the background, our boy legend Elon was born to a young couple, Errol and May. Fast forward 3 years, and now young Elon was the oldest of 3 siblings, a younger brother Kimball and a sister Tosca. They were a well-off family, with Errol working as an engineer and May working as a dietitian. Life was good in the early years. Elon was not like most kids at his age. Even at the age of 5, he spent most of his time reading books of any topics he could get his hands on. But he especially enjoyed science fiction and his father's Encyclopedia Britannica set. He was also very socially awkward and struggled with picking up on social cues from other people, similar to how people with Asperger's struggle socially today. He was described as a loner who preferred books over people. Pretoria was an orderly city on the surface, quiet neighborhoods, disciplined schools, and predictable routines. But beneath that order, there was little room for someone who didn't fit. And Elon didn't seem to fit. There are always a couple of oddballs in every school that get picked on. Elon spoke differently, thought differently. While others joked, he analyzed. While others played, he disappeared into the imaginary realm of books. Elon's parents divorced in 1979, when he was only around 8 years old. Initially, after the divorce, all the children, Elon, Kimball, and Tosca, lived with their mother, May. However, a short time later, Elon chose to go live with his father, Errol. He said he felt sorry for his dad being alone, and was also attracted to things like his father's encyclopedia set and his computer. May, his mother, was very sad about this, but she respected his decision. Much later, Elon actually said he regretted moving in with his father. He said it was a bad idea, calling his father difficult and sometimes an abusive person. When Elon was about 12 years old, he created a simple video game called Blastar. Not bad for 12, considering video game programming back then was much more complicated. Teachers noticed his intelligence, but didn't always understand it. Classmates noticed something else entirely. "Why do you talk like that?" one boy would ask him, half mocking. Elon didn't answer, not because he couldn't, but because explaining felt pointless to him. That's just how he thought and spoke. The bullying started small, a shove in the hallway or the playground, a laugh pointing at him across the room, a nickname made to embarrass, but it grew, as these things often do, into something systematic, predictable, daily. He became a target for not just what he did, but for what he represented. Someone out of place at a school with no friends. One afternoon, in a moment that would echo through his life, the bullying escalated beyond anything before. A group cornered him near a staircase, words turned to force, and Elon, he fell. Then more hands, more feet, more blows. When it was over, he lay still long enough that someone thought he might not get up again. But he did. But something in him had shifted, not broken, hardened. Like you'd harden steel to make a sword. As if the world had presented him with its terms, and he had to decide if he wanted to step up to meet them. And he did. At age 17, Elon made a decision that would redefine everything that followed. He would leave Pretoria. Leave his parents and his siblings. Not dramatically, not rebelliously, just decisively. South America, with its constraints and obligations, felt like a place where futures were assigned rather than chosen at the time. And he wanted something else, something undefined but larger than that. He set his sights on Canada as the first step in his journey. His parents didn't financially support him on his new quest. They each gave him $2,000, wished him luck in his new chapter in his life, and he set off. It wasn't glamorous in Canada for Elon. He picked up odd jobs, shared spaces with friends and family, couch surfed with long stretches of uncertainty, but it was something new, and that was what he needed at the time. At first, Elon tracked down relatives on his mother's side, including a second cousin on a farm in Saskatchewan. Flat land, physical labor, and isolation. That's what the prairies offered. It wasn't fancy, but it was solid. He also stayed temporarily with other relatives in Canada as he moved around, trying to establish himself and eventually get into school. He didn't have a single stable home. It was more like a patchwork of places, depending on opportunity and circumstance. To support himself, he took whatever he could find. Some of it was pretty tough work. Well, you can imagine, farm work on the prairies speaks for itself. He helped with basic agricultural labor, nothing glamorous, just physically demanding work typical of rural farms. He then moved out to British Columbia, and he got a job in a lumber mill, cutting logs and handling heavy materials. It was a little more dangerous work, exhausting, and later he actually described it as one of the hardest jobs he'd ever had. After the mill job, he switched over to the boiler room and he started doing cleaning in the boiler room. This was probably the most extreme job he ever had. He cleaned a boiler room in the lumber mill, shoveling out debris and sludge in very high temperatures, wearing protective gear. It paid better than the other jobs because few people were willing to do it. But Elon did. One of the smartest early decisions he made was going to Canada first, instead of going directly to the United States, because he had Canadian citizenship from his mother's side. That meant he would pay much lower tuition than international students. Plus, he could qualify for student loans and financial aid. Without that, attending university would have been far more difficult, financially speaking, for him. He got accepted and started at Queen's University, Ontario. He still continued to be financially scrappy out of necessity. He didn't have a lot of money. He took on odd jobs, lived relatively frugally like most university students do, and he always looked for ways to stretch every dollar. Later, when he transferred to the University of Pennsylvania, costs went up, but so did his resourcefulness. He didn't rely purely on savings like many students. He had a mix of things that he was doing, like he had some student loans, he had a few scholarships that came his way. Even in college, he was already thinking like a builder, probably the mindset from his father's side. He and a roommate actually rented a large house and turned it into an unofficial party venue at the university and charged people to get in. Helped with the rent. Elon met his first wife Justine sometime in 1990 when they were going to Queen's University together. As the story goes, he asked her out for ice cream, she agreed, but stood him up. Later, he actually tracked her down in the student center with 2 ice cream cones in his hands and a smile. For someone socially awkward, that's a pretty decent move, I'd say. Elon moved down to the United States to the University of Pennsylvania in 1992. Him and Justine dated for about 8 to 9 years. A lot of it was long distance before getting married in the year 2000. At the University of Pennsylvania, he studied physics and economics. It wasn't random for him, it was a strategy. He wanted to understand his current reality and then understand the systems of both reality and his situation, and then change both. Might not make sense to a lot of people, but it made sense to him. Even there at university, with Justine, something felt incomplete to him. The world was shifting, the internet was emerging, not as a tool, but as a new layer of global communication. And he didn't want to just study that, he wanted to help build it. So he started a company, and his brother Kimball came to America and helped co-found it with him. His first company was practical, very grounded, almost unremarkable on the surface. Elon's first major business in the mid-1990s was called Zip2. The company essentially created online city guides for newspapers, combining business listings with maps, kind of like an early version of Google Maps plus Yelp. It helped newspapers and businesses navigate the digital world, maps, listing, directories, the kind of infrastructure that becomes invisible in the background once it's working. But behind the scenes, it was relentless. During his management of his first company, Zip2, Elon and his brother, they couldn't even afford both an office and an apartment building to live in, so they literally slept in the office. They used a nearby gym for their shower, and they worked basically all day, every day. Long nights, thin margins, constant uncertainty. That's essentially the life of a starting business person most of the time. There's a particular kind of stress that comes with building something from nothing, where, every decision you make feels like it might be the one that ends everything. He lived inside that tension, and he seemed to thrive on it. And then, unexpectedly, it paid off. They managed to sell Zip2 for a profit. At a time when most businesses weren't even on the internet yet, Zip2 helped bring local listings into the digital world. This was pretty cutting edge for the time. In 1999, Zip2 was sold to Compaq Computers for nearly $300 million. Elon himself made about $22 million from the deal. For the first time in his life, he had real money. Enough money to stop, to rest, to choose some comfort for a change. But he didn't choose any of those options. He chose acceleration. The current currency system in North America, he believed, was broken. It was too slow, too fragmented, too dependent on systems that hadn't evolved with technology. So he built something new, an online financial platform that aimed to redefine how people moved money around. It was ambitious, maybe almost too ambitious for his time. After selling Zip2, Elon started a company called X.com. It was one of the first online banks, technically. It could send money via email, which was still very new at the time. At the same time, Elon was starting X, he found another startup company called Confinity. That was founded by Peter Thiel and Max Levchin. They were working on a similar idea, digital payments. Their company was called PayPal. In the year 2000, X.com and Confinity merged. One, a payment company, and the other, a money transfer company. Great match, right? Their merged company, just a numbered name right now, had internal disagreements about the direction. Banking transfers versus payments focus. That was to be expected. When merging entrepreneurial visions, the creators have very strong views of what their company wants to do. While Elon was on his honeymoon with Justine, the board of directors of their company, only 6 months old now, actually replaced him as CEO with Peter Thiel while he was away. This sounds pretty dramatic, and it was. Total backstab. And on his honeymoon, no less. But Elon remained the largest shareholder, so he was still deeply tied to the company's success. He just didn't win the popularity contest to stay CEO anymore. Under the new leadership, the company shifted focus towards payments. The name PayPal won out over X.com. So, the final online services company we now know as PayPal was really a combination of both companies' ideas and technology. In 2002, PayPal was bought by eBay for $1.5 billion. Elon made about $180 million from that sale. Not too shabby. That company would go to fund Tesla, SpaceX, and everything else he was going to do afterwards. But even in the best of times, you can have the worst of times. While all this was happening in 2002, Elon and Justine just had their first son, Nevada. Tragically, he died as an infant from sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS, about 10 weeks old. Elon and his wife were devastated. That would be enough for a normal person to hit the pause button, enjoy some of their fortune, and take a mental health break for themselves. But what Elon did next didn't make sense. Not to investors, not to friends, not even to people who believed in him. He split his vast fortune into multiple ventures. Madness, everybody said. You're gonna lose it all. His first investment was aimed at space. Rockets, reusable, affordable, transformative. That later became SpaceX. But before SpaceX even existed, Elon Musk had a much simpler and honestly kind of poetic plan. Send a small greenhouse to Mars, grow plants there, inspire the public and governments to care about space again. He called it the Mars Oasis. The goal wasn't colonization yet, it was inspiration. But when he tried to buy rockets from the Russians to start the company, they were so expensive that he decided, we can't afford this, we've got to build them ourselves. That decision directly led to SpaceX. The key for his plans was Starship, SpaceX's giant reusable rocket. This is what he wanted to do. Send an uncrewed mission to Mars. Test landing on Mars. Deliver equipment and supplies. Send robots like the new Tesla Optimus robots. Prepare infrastructure. And then later, actually send humans. Possibly, in the late 2030s, which is still kind of an optimistic timeline, I think. And then, after that, massively scale up. Hundreds or thousands of launches. Build a permanent settlement on the Red Planet. Is he still planning on doing this? Well, it's still in the business plan. He hasn't abandoned anything yet, but I guess we'll just see what comes next. He's still targeting early Mars missions with Starship. The first uncrewed attempt could be 2031, we'll see. Human missions could actually follow a few years later if all goes well. Even unofficial filings say Mars colonization is still part of the SpaceX long-term vision plan. It's just high risk and unproven. Seems like a project that would take all of your time, eh? Well, his other business idea was aimed at transportation. Electric cars that could compete with or even surpass gasoline vehicles. That was Tesla. Now, Tesla was founded in 2003 by Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning. Their idea was build a high-performance electric sports car that could prove EVs weren't boring or slow. In 2004, Elon led Tesla's first major funding round. He invested about $6.5 million of his own money into the two guys' little company they had. With his investment, he became chairman of the board. He also played a big role in shaping the product direction. Now, for all those people out there thinking, he didn't found Tesla, that wasn't his, well, that's true, but he was the main early backer and primary decision maker of the company in those very early stages. They only raised $7.5 million in their first funding round, of which most of that was Elon's money. So he was the sole reason this company was moving forward at this point. Now, he was a really busy guy. He had a busy schedule. Now he's developing 2 companies with ambitious goals. Then, something amazing happened. Justine had twins, and Elon was now the proud father of Griffin and Xavier. He was a happy father. The home front was busy, but going well as far as Elon knew. Tesla was having issues. The company was struggling financially. The Roadster project was delayed and way over budget. And leadership changes were happening, including Elon becoming the new CEO to try to get them out of their current predicament. So, Elon is now father of 2 babies, trying to get a rocket company to launch, pun intended, and now he was the CEO of a financially struggling electric car company whose product was having issues. Anything else? Oh yeah, company number 3. Elon wanted a sustainable energy company to complement his electric car company. Solar City was a company founded in 2006 by Lyndon Rive and Peter Rive. They were actually Elon's cousins. Even though he didn't found the company directly, Elon was there in the company pretty much from the very beginning. He came up with the idea for the company for his cousins. He helped finance it, and he helped launch it. He served as chairman of the board, and he was pretty much the largest shareholder in the whole company. So, in practice, he was the driving force behind its creation, even if his name isn't on the original founding line. Some people want to split hairs and make it a debate, but does it really matter? Anyways, what was Solar City doing? Well, it focused on making solar energy easier to adopt for the everyday person. They installed solar panels on homes, on businesses, offered financing and leasing models so people didn't have to pay up front, helped push solar into the mainstream USA. I did notice that there was quite a bit of controversy about Elon and his companies. When I was doing all the research, I was kind of digging things up. Did he start these companies or did he take them over and try to take credit? Blah, blah, blah. Honestly, in the business world, most people that found companies sell them off to their major shareholders or big corporations. Similar to like how Elon sold merged company PayPal after they got to a certain point. It's the nature of the beast, really. Huge corps like Compaq buy them up after all the hard work's done in the startup phase. It's all fair game. And keep in mind that a company at the start can look 500% different a year down the road, when major money starts flowing in. The part that I found funny, looking down the rabbit hole, is some people were saying, is Elon an alien come to help the Earth with all his companies? Like reusable rockets to let us explore space, electric, non-polluting cars to save the environment, solar panel expansion, again, reduce pollution. But an alien? Come on. He's way more likely to be a time traveler from the future that picked that exact right time to invest in selling companies to become so successful. But that's just fantasy, so let's get back to the actual story. Now, Elon had 3 companies and is super busy at the moment. Seems like more than one person could actually handle, right? Well, later in 2006, after the push for his 3rd company, his wife Justine had triplets. Boom! Yeah, that is now crazy. Keeping up with that, 3 companies and 5 kids. And on the company side of things, it didn't look so rosy. All 3 companies required enormous capital to keep running, most of his money. All 3 of them faced skepticism, and all 3 began to fail. For SpaceX, Rocket after rocket kept exploding after launching. Each failure wasn't just technical, it was financial. Millions of dollars lost in a second. That impacts the business. Tesla at the same time, production was delaying, expenses were going through the roof, and Solar City had barely done anything. By 2008, the situation was critical. Elon had poured nearly everything into these companies. His fortune, once vast, was nearly gone. At one point, he thought he had to choose which company to save and let the other two collapse. But he refused. Almost like he knew something everyone else didn't know. Ooh. Instead, he stretched everything, time, money, energy, to keep them all going at once. Honestly, it shouldn't have worked. They should have all gone under, or maybe 2 out of the 3 gone under. 2008 was arguably the worst year of Musk's life. At the time, Elon and Justine, their marriage just deteriorated and they got divorced. There was so much work pressure, financial pressure, and probably honestly a lack of presence at home for the family. Elon later said he was close to a nervous breakdown during this period. 2008 was the worst.
It's just the worst.
But can't all be bad news, right? The 4th launch at SpaceX was different. Not a design, not an expectation, but an outcome. The rocket reached orbit. Yes! After 3 failures, 1 success changed everything for that company. Soon after, a contract arrived from NASA. Funding validation, survival for SpaceX.
Attention all operators on countdown 1. This is the final go, no go for flight 2 of Starship. Again, our 20 is at 7 a.m. Central. Raptor 1.
Go.
Raptor 2.
Go.
Stage 1.
Go.
Stage 2.
Go.
Copy, go for flight. Clock is rolling. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have liftoff.
Boost stretcher cut off. Stage separation.
At the same time, Tesla secured last-minute investment. Elon actually invested his last available cash he had into Tesla. Reportedly, from people that knew him, he had to borrow money from people for personal expenses. He was so strapped he gave everything. Tesla also led an emergency funding round to get more money at that time too. But without Elon's decision to keep funding it, Tesla likely would have shut down that year. The collapse that seemed inevitable didn't happen. Instead, something else began: momentum. From there, the trajectory shifted upwards. SpaceX didn't just launch rockets, it landed them. Reusability turned from theory into routine. That's an important concept. There was a savings of roughly 50 to 90% per launch, depending on how you compare it. A $200 million traditional launch versus $67 million Falcon 9, that's $130 million saved per launch. That is huge. And Tesla didn't just sell cars, it forced an entire industry to rethink itself. Other ventures of Elon's followed once the money started rolling in. He didn't even stop with the 3 companies. A really cool one was Neuralink, brain-machine interfaces. It was founded in 2016 by a group of scientists and engineers, including Elon. He was the co-founder, the primary funder, and the public face and driver of the company vision. Its goal? Create a brain-computer interface that could eventually help treat neurological conditions and possibly connect humans with artificial intelligence. What it's done successfully today, honestly, is incredible. It's something you'd think out of a science fiction movie. Human brain implants are actually working at an early stage right now. The first one, I believe, was done in 2024, and as of now, 20 plus people are in trials with this. Some patients, especially those with, paralysis, they can now move a computer cursor with their thoughts, type, browse the internet, play games, even control some software or devices mentally. In some cases, patients describe it as life-changing, regaining independence they lost. People with spinal cord injuries can actually interact with computers again. That's huge. Another company Elon funded was The Boring Company, digging deep beneath cities. The biggest success they've had so far is the Vegas Loop. It's operational right now, and they've transported millions of passengers. I think it was 3 to 4 million passengers to date on that. It connects parts of Las Vegas, like the convention centers, the resorts, and it reduces a 45-minute walk to about a 2-minute drive. Supposedly, it can handle thousands of passengers per hour. That's an actual functioning transportation system, not just a concept. It's also expanding. It's approved for 68 miles of tunnels and 100 plus stations. But here's where it falls short. It's much smaller than the original version that was planned. It was supposed to be a high-speed underground transportation hub, possibly Hyperloop level, very quick. The reality today are Teslas are basically driving in tunnels. Short distances, few miles here and there, not a mass transit, citywide scale yet. It's not super effective right now, but it's in its early stages. A cool note, The Boring Company actually sold not a flamethrower, which was an actual flamethrower. They sold 20,000 units of it, priced at $500 each. It's primarily marketed as a joke to, raise money and generate attention, and because Elon thought it was funny. Another company Elon was part of is OpenAI, which is pushing artificial intelligence forward. OpenAI was founded in 2015 by a group of tech leaders, including Elon Musk. He helped launch OpenAI as a not-for-profit research lab, motivated by concerns about, AI safety, ensuring AI is going to benefit humanity. Later, he left the company. He stepped away from OpenAI's board in 2018. The main reasons were there was a difference in direction and control. OpenAI was transitioning more towards a commercial model, and there was a potential conflict of interest with Tesla's current AI network that they were using and OpenAI. See, at Tesla, AI isn't just like a product name, it's a collection of systems that all work together. The Tesla Autopilot for the self-driving vehicle. There's the Tesla Bot AI for the Optimus robots. And there's also Dojo, which is Tesla's supercomputer used to train AI models. OpenAI and Tesla AI have different goals. The Tesla AI works on AI interacting with the physical world, like self-driving cars and understanding roads, objects, motion, controlling robots. It's about machines interacting with physical reality. OpenAI, their general focus is software intelligence. An example of that would be like chatbots like ChatGPT, writing and coding, reasoning, image, video, and music generation, that sort of stuff. Elon did start a competitor in that realm of AI called Grok. Grok is a chatbot developed by xAI, which is Elon's AI company. It's similar in category to ChatGPT and OpenAI, and it's not going to have the same conflicts that the Tesla AI would have had. A couple interesting things about Grok was it was designed with a little bit of a different philosophy. It's more real-time and looks at like real data from X and Twitter, and it also comes with humor and personality quirks that OpenAI doesn't have. And that leads us to X, formerly Twitter, entering the realm of global conversation, really. I think everyone in the world knows that buyout story, so I won't go into opinions or politics. But the current reality is, in 25-26, it's generating revenue again, around 2 to 3 billion a year. So the platform is definitely not dead financially. It is still generating income, but it's also losing money every year. I think the takeover of Twitter was more about freedom of speech and less about making money. But in the end, everything's about making money, and it's going to take him a while to pay all of that back, that's for sure. A lot of his businesses have been controversial in one way or another, each one ambitious to the point of improbability, I'd say. Elon currently thinks his Optimus production could be $1 trillion business if they get it working right. Right now, the robots are pretty cool. They can walk and pick up objects, do simple tasks, but they're a long way away from being a reliable worker, a household assistant. But one of the coolest things about it is it can learn by watching people do tasks, and then it can attempt to replicate them. Why this is huge is it reduces the need for manual programming and moves towards general purpose robots. If they can get the robots to the point of, say, Rosie from the Jetsons, every household in the world will want one of those. Elon once said, "When something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor." Failure is an option here. If things are not failing, you're not innovating enough. But ambition doesn't move through the world without resistance. Again, I want to state this legend of our video today is currently alive and kicking. I would personally like to say to Elon, keep it up, friend. What you're doing is pushing the whole world forward for the better. Wow. Okay, that was a lot to think about. This video is a little bit longer than normal just because he has done so many things. It's hard to believe one person was able to accomplish so much so fast. And through it all, for this legend, the pattern remained. The boy who endured without complaint. The young man who left without hesitation. The builder who risked everything repeatedly. Not because success was guaranteed, not because to him standing still seemed like a greater risk. Only at the end, when you trace every thread back to its origin, every risk to its source, does the full picture come into focus. The young bullied child in Pretoria, the immigrant student, the relentless builder of improbable things, the man who refused to accept the limits of his time. His name is Elon Musk. And whether history remembers him as a visionary, a disruptor, or something more complicated, well, his story is still being written. And I'm personally excited to see what comes next. So, our legend for the day, Elon. Had you heard of Elon Musk, the man that created so many incredible companies and is currently the richest man on the planet? Of course you have. But I bet you didn't know his childhood, his struggles, or even some of the companies he's running in the background that are not getting major news. Sometimes things are more than they seem. You see, you never know where the next great idea will come from. Maybe it'll be you, the listener, inspired by Elon's will as a child to rise again after being beaten and then to become the world's richest person who changed our world forever with his companies. Thank you for watching my video. I really appreciate your time, and I hope you've learned something new about one of the legends that changed our world. If you did enjoy this, please like and subscribe, as I will be releasing more legends to come in the future. I'd also like to hear any of your suggestions you might have of legends to do later. Someone who did extraordinary things but sits in relative obscurity for the most part. Remember, out there somewhere, hidden in forgotten textbooks or manuscripts, unwatched movie clips, or even in the memories of our seniors, are legends. And they changed your life forever, whether you knew it or not.